Have you ever wondered what secrets medical experts use themselves to maintain optimal health and longevity? Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Robert Lufkin, and welcome to the Health Longevity Secrets Show, where we talk to the experts and find out their secrets for health and longevity. Not only what they recommend, but what they actually do for themselves. Today's expert is Dr. Kara Fitzgerald, the lead author of a groundbreaking scientific study which asks the important question, can lifestyle changes over 8 weeks affect human epigenetic age as measured by a methylation clock? Hi everybody, welcome to Health and Longevity Secrets, what experts do themselves, where we interview the best minds in health and longevity. I am absolutely thrilled today to be here with Dr. Kara Fitzgerald. I share her vision of the widespread adoption of a healthcare model that reverses the global epidemic of chronic disease and supports the development of vibrant longevity. Dr. Fitzgerald is the first ever recipient of the 2018 Emerging Leadership Award from the Personalized Lifestyle Medicine Institute in recognition of her work on DNA methylation. She lectures globally on functional medicine. Dr. Fitzgerald is on the faculty at the Institute for Functional Medicine, or IFM, and is an IFM Certified Practitioner with a clinical practice in Newton, Connecticut, which we'll hear more about today. She received her doctorate in naturopathic medicine from the National College of Naturopathic Medicine in Portland, Oregon. Truly passionate about educating clinicians and lay people alike, Dr. Fitzgerald runs a functional medicine clinic immersion program for professionals. She also hosts a very popular podcast, New Frontiers in Functional Medicine, which is one of my personal favorites that I listen to. And she maintains an active blog on her website. Her new book that we will also be hearing about is coming out in January 2022. She's also an avid cyclist and a mother of a passionate for life toddler. Of particular attention to this audience, she's also the lead author of a groundbreaking scientific article describing a randomized clinical trial which asked if lifestyle changes over 8 weeks can affect epigenetic age as measured by a methylation clock. Dr. Fitzgerald, welcome again to Health Longevity Secrets.
Thank you. It's great to be here. I appreciate and support your vision to continue to change the medical paradigm. So thanks for jumping in.
Yeah, I think we share that thought, and it's great to see so many people taking an interest in this.
Absolutely.
What brought you here on your journey to work in this fascinating field?
Well, I mean, we can go back. It depends on how far you want to go back. I can give you a little bit of a snapshot because I don't want to just interrupt me if I go down any rabbit hole at any time. Just interrupt me. No offense.
Sure.
And clarify if I say anything that doesn't make sense. So just getting into naturopathic medicine, basically, the decision for me around medical school came at a time that I was struggling with chronic fatigue, and of course, I went to doctor after doctor after doctor and didn't get better until I saw a naturopathic physician. And it was at that extraordinarily pivotal time of making my decisions for my training. And really that's how it happened. I mean, he was one of the first NDs here in or one of the longest practicing NDs. I think his license here is like number 23 or something. I mean, it's a small profession, but that directed me to naturopathic medicine. And the cool thing about naturopathic medicine is that it really is kind of a systems model. I mean, it's very much in alignment with functional medicine. And I came upon Dr. Jeff Bland, who's a nutritional biochemist, when I was a student, and I resonated so much with this sort of the biochemistry and kind of the more orthomolecular piece. And I was able to do a postdoc in laboratory science. I just feel like it was grace that I got to do that because it was so in alignment with my area of focus. And I was working under Richard Lord, who's a really a highly regarded nutritional biochemist in our space. And was able to, from there, leapfrog into functional medicine, which is, again, it's all of it is very deeply in alignment with things that I'm passionate about, and thinking about sort of reaction kinetic, getting into some of this, the biochemistry, some of the arcana around physiology and how we can tweak it using natural interventions really became a life focus. And it was a, it's a different story, but it was a natural progression for me to discover epigenetics and really begin to puzzle around how we're influencing gene expression through epigenetics in functional medicine. So it was kind of a natural progression of my career.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic. And it's so powerful having mentors in our lives, and just who we wind up with can have such a dramatic effect. But the area you're working on now, it seems it's really transforming all of medicine, and even the mainstream sort of the medical schools where I'm coming from. They're shifting this way, and this is truly the future, I think.
We are in a revolution in medicine and in science, as significant as the Industrial Revolution was, a few centuries ago. I mean, we're in extraordinary times here in science and in medicine.
Yes, it's such an exciting time, and it's great to get the message out to the people themselves who can benefit this directly, as well as other practitioners also.
So a huge aha for me, and this started to happen at the lab, but really it continues, is that the more we're able to sort of look at the omics, the genetic expression, epigenetic patterns, metabolomics, all of the, microbiomics and so forth, the more that we're able to look with such sophistication at what's happening to us physiologically, the more we realize that these simple truths like, eat a whole foods diet, get enough sleep, chew your food, exercise, move your body. The more we see how impactful these things are. So it's sort of this interesting paradox that these humble things from, what we evolved are as or more integral as we're able to actually look at what they're doing in the body with this omics insight we have now.
Exactly, and ultimately even more effective than giving drugs or this sort of thing. I mean, who would have thought that diet is so transformational in our lives, and who would have thought that brushing our teeth, for example, will prevent a heart attack and also prevent, decrease our risk for dementia and things like that by decreasing inflammation and, simple lifestyle hacks. It's crazy. Like that.
Simple lifestyle hacks at the end of the day. That's where it's at. It's pretty crazy, but science is backing it up in spades.
Exactly. Well, we have so many exciting things to touch on today and really a limited amount of time, but let's first turn to your paper about the use of methylation clocks to validate possible effects of lifestyle changes. And maybe for our listeners, we can just take a moment and review methylation and methylation clocks, if you don't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. So people may be familiar with the methylation cycle. That is where we make S-adenosylmethionine. So if maybe people have heard of homocysteine, it's commonly thought of as a cardiovascular risk marker. That's where it's most famous, but it's actually a major player in the full methylation cycle. So homocysteine gets recycled back to methionine, and then methionine is converted to S-adenosylmethionine. And that little compound, that's our universal methyl donor. And that goes around to the hundreds of methyltransferase enzymes that are in our body engaged in methylation reactions and is a cofactor in that reaction. So we're doing methylation in every cell in the body really all of the time. And, a methylation reaction will help from detox lead or help with drug metabolism. It'll help make dopamine, one of our all important neurotransmitters. It also helps metabolize dopamine and adrenaline. It helps metabolize estrogen. So methylation plays a massive role. It's just a carbon with 3 hydrogens. It's an exquisitely simple molecule. And I think we just evolved, having ready access to carbons and hydrogens. And so it's got this huge multifaceted, methylation has a huge multifaceted role in many, many parts of physiology. our area of interest is specifically around DNA methylation, which is an epigenetic mark. And there are different ways genes are, gene expression is regulated, but one of the key players is DNA methylation. And so this is when a methyl group is actually laid down onto a cytosine, which was one of the bases in DNA. And when there's a collection of these methyl groups at a promoter region of a gene, it'll actually have an inhibitory effect. Conversely, methyl groups can be removed, or the body can prevent methyl groups from being laid down, and that promoter region will not be heavily methylated, and that gene will be on. So methylation groups generally tend to turn a gene off. The lack of methylation groups tend to keep genes on. So that's a little bit of background. Any question in that?
Yeah. I mean, one aha moment for me on methylation, that was a great explanation, was that sort of the first approximation model for it was methylation was some sort of like rust occurring on the genes as they get older, or scratches on a CD, like, David Sinclair talks about. But actually, it seems it's a bit nuanced than that. Correct? For example, in your paper, the net methylation didn't change, but some areas went up and some areas went down, and it was rather the change in locations. And so, as you say, there were methylation of promoter regions of tumor suppressor genes, which is a triple negative sort of.
That's right. That's right. In the end, you don't want that. In the end, the take home is you don't want that. But yeah, it is kind of complex. Yeah. So good guy genes, as we age, there's a really pretty predictable pattern that good guy genes are turned off and bad guy genes are turned on. Like it's quite simple. Our pro-inflammatory genes tend to get turned on. Our ability to fight cancer tends to drop. And just on and on. Our ability to generate antioxidant compounds, our antioxidant system tends to get muddied. And yeah, it's kind of annoying. And it's not a straight shot. It's not, we just simply need to turn the methylation volume up. Otherwise, we all in functional medicine be, incredibly, healthy by just taking our B12 and folate. But that's not the case. It's way more nuanced than that we don't want hypermethylation. We don't want too much methylation in certain regions. We don't want too little methylation in other regions. And so it's, there's really kind of a sweet spot.
So given that, like as you say, if I understand you correctly, it's not a simple matter of giving dietary methyl donors like folate, B12, and choline, because it's not increasing or decreasing overall methylation, but rather rearranging them in a non-stochastic fashion, as you say in your paper, that will change the epigenetic clock to a lower age than.
Yes.
Great. So.
Let me just say one thing for anyone out there saying, "Oh, geez, do I throw my B vitamins out? Do I stop eating eggs?" I want to say you don't. I mean, we prescribe them in clinical practice all the time, and there are plenty of us who are deficient who absolutely require them, and that's a separate conversation. But we are arguing, and we tend to become more deficient as we age, and so there's a place for them. But we are arguing for this more nuanced approach and considering imbalance versus sort of the all or nothing thinking that is easy to fall into.
Mm-hmm. But it's wonderful to have such a powerful biomarker for longevity as these methylation clocks, rather than individual lab values for blood lipids, or waiting for a catastrophic event like a stroke or heart attack or some other factors along the line. This is
you're aged.
Yeah, exactly. Sudden death. Yeah.
Right. Well, there you go. Yeah, that's right. We're trying to avoid it. Yeah.
So maybe summarize what your paper found then, and how that leads into your current projects.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So one of the a massive aha for me is realizing that aging is the number one risk factor for all of these diseases that we're talking about. We always say that they're the non-communicable diseases, but COVID's right in there. I mean, it's extraordinary to me. Aging makes us more vulnerable to disease, period. And I got into looking at diet and lifestyle in relation to DNA methylation because I was actually concerned about cancer. There's a ton of research. Arguably, most of the research is looking at cancer epigenetics. And so that was sort of my entry into thinking about a diet and lifestyle approach to change if we could support cancer epigenetics. But then I began to unfold or really kind of unpack as I dove into the science further that in fact, some of the derangements in cancer epigenetics look similar to aging in general and other chronic diseases. It's so fascinating. I mean, as we age, we start to hypermethylate our tumor suppressor genes, just like cancer itself does. I mean, it's crazy. And so the idea became, if we actually focus on turning back the biological hands of the aging journey, we're addressing collectively all of these diseases, including cancer, including COVID. I mean, it's just phenomenal. And so we are using a methylation clock. In our study, we used the original Horvath 2013 clock. There are subsequent clocks. Clocks are getting better and better, but when we started our study design back in 2017, that was the main clock, and it correlates very closely with chronological age. It's really supplanted the other biological clocks as the gold standard. I mean, these DNA methylation clocks are just really extraordinary tools, and it enables us to figure out what works, now versus, doing longevity trials, which obviously we can't, real-time longevity trials. So, we engaged in a diet and lifestyle program specifically geared at nuancing DNA methylation. So our diet is very high in methyl donor foods. So lots of green leafies, betaine. We wanted folks to have some eggs on a weekly basis. We wanted people to have some liver. Certain colorful fruits and veggies. We included quite a bit of polyphenol compounds, players that you're familiar with, folks: curcumin, green tea, resveratrol, quercetin, food-sourced polyphenol compounds, because there's a pretty cool growing body of science that suggests that these polyphenol compounds are sort of like methylation adaptogens, is kind of the colloquial term we're using for them. They sort of guide the methyl donor towards methylating the right gene. I mean, that's what we think. I mean, and we wonder if that's what our study suggests, because we didn't increase net methylation. We actually rearranged it in a more favorable pattern. And these polyphenol compounds can inhibit the methyltransferases from laying methyl donors down on DNA. And it seems like they may support that in a specific sort of healthy pattern way. I mean, we look at curcumin or green. I mean, all of these guys have very good track records for being beneficial. So our diet was specifically rich in a eating pattern designed to support DNA methylation. We also included a balanced exercise. We wanted folks to get enough sleep, so we paid attention to that, and we included a meditation protocol. All of those have science on them as being supportive of DNA methylation, and in some cases actually biologically age reversing as well. So really, we wanted to bring in a realistic lifestyle program where all ends pointed at improving biological age vis-a-vis DNA methylation. We included a supplement, a probiotic supplement, Lactobacillus plantarum, through Metagenics. In fact, I want to say Metagenics gave us an unrestricted grant. So they're a supplement company, and they funded our study without taking any ownership or possession. We were in the driver's seat with every element of design, and I'm very eternally grateful for them for giving me this career-changing opportunity. So Lactobacillus plantarum has some suggestion in the literature that it may help our microbiome make more folate. So we wanted that methyl donor support. And we did end up showing that our participants increased circulating methylfolate by 15% without any, without any B vitamin supplements. And then we also gave them a greens powder concentrate, again, a Metagenics product called Phytoganics. The greens powder concentrate it was a twice daily dose of those important polyphenols. And so that was the nuts and bolts of our study. I can talk to you about results if you'd
Sure,
like.
yeah. And in particular, you made the decision not to do supplements other than the polyphenol and the probiotic then.
Yes.
And that was just to, you didn't feel it was necessary really with the proper diet and those basic supplements? And
we wanted to highlight the power of a diet and lifestyle intervention for changing the methylome. I mean, not getting in there with a heavy hitting intervention like a B complex. We knew, we know already that a B complex can manipulate the methylome. I mean, a surrogate, a marker of those changes would be homocysteine, but, lowering homocysteine, but we wanted to be more nuanced than that. I can give you a little bit of a background. I don't want to cause any kind of undue anxiety or panic, but there is suggestion in the literature. So when we do, we can think about our methyl donors and folate in particular as existing in a U curve. Too little folate is always a problem. It's always a problem. We can see everything from anemia to increased risk for cancer. When you have too insufficient folate, all sorts of problems ensue. Excess folate, similarly, there's a growing body of literature to suggest that it might actually promote aberrant methylation, among other things, and via turning off, and suppressing tumor suppressor genes. So excess methyl donors is something that we might be concerned with in certain populations, and some studies have demonstrated this. Again, you don't necessarily want to throw out your B vitamins. You want to talk to your provider about it and see if you need to be thinking about it. But this U-curve distribution of methyl donors suggests to us that they're powerful, that they're important, and we want to be at the bottom of the U. We want to be in the sweet spot. Nowhere in the literature is there any evidence for food-based methyl donor nutrients being problematic. So that was kind of our background rationale there.
Yeah. Is the sweet spot for the methyl donors within the therapeutic range, and the deleterious effects way off the curve, or are they dangerously close, or that needs to be determined yet?
That's a great question. I think I don't know that it's going to be a cut and dried answer, and I really want to be mindful that people don't want to throw it out with the bath, the baby out with the bathwater here, because certainly there's all sorts of reasons for us to be using them. You know what I would say, just so I don't forget, if you're taking B supplements, make sure you're getting some of what we're calling the methylation adaptogens. Make sure you're eating a really polyphenol rich diet. Make sure you're getting curcumin, maybe some green tea, resveratrol, quercetin, whatever your favorites are. Make sure those all important nutrients that may help direct traffic are in your diet along with the supplement. I think that's an important piece of it.
That's great. Yeah.
I will say that there was, there have been some studies showing relatively low level supplementation. I mean, there was a study out looking actually at fracture risk in individuals in an aging population of individuals with higher homocysteine, and they gave them B12 and folic acid. And what they found is those oldest actually had, in this population, when they did a secondary analysis, those oldest participants actually had an increased risk of colorectal cancer. And these were modest amounts of B12 and folate. Wow. It may be that if a tumor is already present, that you just need to be thinking about it. I mean, we need to be teasing it out. And again, for the 5,000th time, I don't want to be alarmist here, but it does suggest that we should lean on a food forward approach whenever we can. And, you can always lean on a food forward approach and then, lean on lower amounts of actual supplements.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. So that kind of jumped us into this area of investigation. And listen, exercise, we don't think about this in functional medicine, but exercise lowers homocysteine. I mean, exercise is favorable on methylation. And let me tell you one more thing, and then I'm going to stop. For those of us who are older, exercise can actually allow for the re-expression of tumor suppressor genes. Actually, at any age, exercise will help balance DNA methylation. But particularly in those who are older, you actually get more bang for your buck as far as balancing DNA methylation. Isn't that cool?
Interesting. I mean, it blew me. I'm a radiologist. What blew me away was seeing people with brain changes and hippocampal atrophy of the hippocampus part of the brain with memory, and it was shrunken and shriveled up. And in 3 months on an exercise program, the brain would actually enlarge and the hippocampus would grow back, and it was measurable on the scans. It was just
Isn't that
amazing.
extraordinary?
Yeah.
So
So
imagine
exercise.
but combine that with a healthy diet and some other things that, I mean, when you pull together a systems protocol, man, the possibilities are really extraordinary. And that's cool that you got to see that. That's neat.
Yeah, that's great. So maybe let's segue into the results of your study. I think everyone's so excited now. What did you find out?
What did we find? So as compared to our control group, our study participants got 3.23 years younger, which is pretty astonishing, with a very significant p-value of 0.018. So yeah, it was neat. Yeah. Wow. And as compared to, I know, that's right. And that does suggest, we say it's potential reversal of biological age because it's a small trial, and we're already recruiting for our next larger study, and hopefully we'll get to continue to study and tweak our program. It's a small trial, but we did see a real clear ping that suggests a true biological age reversal versus just slowing things down. And this was our study length was 8 weeks. So 3 years in 8 weeks. Compared to themselves, our study participants got almost 2 years younger, 1.96 years younger. We also lowered, go ahead.
Go ahead, no, sorry.
Well, we lowered triglycerides by 25%. As I mentioned earlier, we increased circulating methylfolate. We lowered the participants' LDL and total cholesterol as well.
Is there any evidence, or what is the evidence, pro or con, showing that how long this effect would persist? In other words, it only works for 8 weeks and then it sort of tapers off, or do you anticipate that continuing this program, people will just be able to dial back the epigenetic clock in some fashion continually over time?
Well, I mean, I don't know that I'm going to be reversing it back to 15,
right.
back to adolescence, nor do I know that I really want to.
Nor do you want to, right?
Yeah, right. We don't know that answer yet. That's a great question. We don't have access to our study participants now. We did originally want them on a Facebook group, and we linked to them there, but it's a long time. We completed the study back in the beginning of 2019, and so we just haven't hung on to them. I wished that we kept it going so that we could follow up with them and get another dietary and recall and do another epigenetic age on them and so forth. But that would require us to do an IRB amendment. So we don't have those answers. Anecdotally, it looks like things can maintain and perhaps even yield greater benefit. We only looked at very healthy middle-aged men. So our population was isolated to them because it was a pilot study. We know, for example, if we worked with diabetics, the chances of age reversal might be greater because they're accelerated in their aging process, as are those others with chronic illness. So, illness is an age accelerant. And so by extension, we may see greater reversal. But how long does it last? We've got a follow-up diet. So we've been using this program in clinical practice for years, and we've got a follow-up that's kind of a less stringent version that we transition folks to. And will that maintain our changes? All of these things we need to answer. And, we hope to. We're building out a digital platform that will, as long as we can keep our IRB rolling, we're going to be able to answer a lot of these. Can vegans do it? I mean, our program requires, some liver. Liver is an extraordinary methyl donor superfood, but obviously vegans aren't going to eat it. So can we see the same kind of turnaround and benefits with vegans? And, there's a lot of questions remain to be answered. And how far back can we turn things if participants continue? 8 weeks is a pretty short time. Although I will say, I mean, it was kind of cavalier for me to do that, but adherence to this kind of a program with all of the variables involved is, it takes a really committed participant. So
Yeah.
Hopefully
Yeah.
we'll get longer segments as we continue.
Now, I understand in your clinical practice, you are using some of these tools or many of these tools, and also maybe you could share with the listeners about the Access the Younger You program. Can
Yeah.
they enroll in
Yes.
it?
Yes, we would love to have you.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, so you can go to just our website, which is my name, Dr. Kara Fitzgerald, drkarafitzgerald.com, and it's Kara, Kara. If you go there, you'll see on a landing page, a link to joining Younger You, or it's join.youngeryou.com, I think, and then you can sign up. Our first launch in August is our Beta 100. These are folks really kind of kicking the tires of our program. You may be able to get into our Beta 100 if you're in the US. So you can, regardless though, even if you don't get in the Beta 100, because the wait list is pretty huge at this point, in January, we'll have a full launch accompanying the book. And like I said, we'll be continuing to study it. You can just do the program. You don't have to be a research participant. You can opt out. That'll be clearly delineated in the app itself. But I would suggest whatever you want to do, if you want just the program, or if you want to participate in research, or you want to try to be a Beta 100 participant, just get over to either the website or join.youngeryou.com and sign up. Just give us your email. We'll keep you posted in the email.
Great. And if they want to join your practice with some of your physicians, and they can do it through that same mechanism, is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Through our website, you can absolutely access our clinic. Everyone here, we've got a large nutrition team here. In fact, our nutrition team were the nutritionists for our study participants. And you'll have access to nutritionists if you do it through the app, but you can absolutely, we're a clinical practice of NDs and MDs and nutritionists. And we work internationally. So people can work with us directly if they'd like to.
Great. That's so exciting that there aren't these barriers and people from truly all over the world can participate in this.
Yes.
Anything you can tell us about your upcoming book? I just pre-ordered it from Amazon. I can't wait.
Oh,
it's coming out January 18th, 2022.
Wow. That's really sweet. I appreciate that. So the cool thing about the book is that you'll get a few things. You'll get exactly what we did in the study. So you'll learn exactly what our study participants did, what they were prescribed, the macros, the kinds of nutrients we wanted them to eat, just everything, a blow by blow in really exquisite detail. You'll get our everyday program, so that you'll transition onto afterwards. You'll get our recommendations for pregnancy, preconception and conception. I mean, gametogenesis, embryogenesis, talk about major methylation and demethylation, important time. I talk about that in the book and do a modified, what am I calling it? For like the hybrid Younger You, for what you might consider in pregnancy. And we actually have some pretty cool statistics where they use our program at Grow Baby Health. So they use our methylation diet and lifestyle in conjunction with their interventions at Grow Baby Health. And the birth outcomes that they have are just extraordinary, just absolutely extraordinary. So I think there's a place for this nutrition program for a variety of indications. And we talk about that in the book. The other things that I'm talking about in the book that are very interesting to me is just sort of understanding what DNA methylation is and what it's doing in the body. There's a particular cool bit where I talk about something called biological embedding. And that is where our life experience is translated to biochemical marks, DNA methylation being a main one, and placed onto our genes to dictate expression. So our experience translated to biochemistry onto our genes. The most of the research here is looking at trauma. So we can see, early life abuse actually translating the way that our genes are expressed. We can see inherited trauma transferred onto our genes and altering genetic expression. I'm interested. I mean, it's easy to look at trauma, but what about how we resolve it? And that's something that I explored in the book. Like, how do we build resilience? How do we build a resilient genome so that, we're not likely to fall to PTSD and so on and so forth. So that there, my broader interest in epigenetics in general, I really get to express in the book. So I think it's going to be a neat read, and I would love your feedback. I'd love all your feedback, actually. It's been a real labor of love and kind of a passion project for sure.
Yeah, it's great getting something out there like that people can purchase and then read or get it from their library and just sit down with it and digest it and really get up to speed with what you're doing and find out about your program.
One of the coolest things about the book, I'll say one more thing and I'll hush, is that we have in it a nutrient appendix where we list food sources of all of these beautiful polyphenols that are epigenetically active. And it is a massive appendix. So if you want to go in there and create a diet for yourself that is just epigenetically extraordinary, you can do that using our nutrient appendix. There's nothing like it, to my knowledge, out there.
Oh, wow. That sounds great.
Cool.
I can hardly wait. So we just have a few minutes left. I wondered if you would be comfortable sharing with our listeners and viewers what personal lifestyle choices you make in your decisions.
I'll show you. Let me see.
Oh, great.
I'll show you one of them. Well, actually, I have a few of them. So here's my lunch, which has
diet?
my beets on it. It's got my beets.
Okay.
This is actually, I use the younger you eating pattern in my daily life. I just find it great. I find it just works for me, and I've created a way that I can prep it easily. So that's a massive amount of veggies. We want people to eat a minimum of about 7 cups. Actually, it's probably closer to 10. So it's a very vegetable forward program. Exercise, meditation.
Diet, before you leave diet, just a couple other questions. When do you eat? Do you do any sort of intermittent fasting?
Good question. Yeah, thanks for asking me that. Our program is keto leaning, and I think that our participants got into a little bit of ketosis as evidenced by the drop in triglycerides. And we do have a mild intermittent fasting or time restricted eating. So nothing after 7, nothing before 7. So about a 12 and 12 eating window. And I continue to practice that. I actually monitor my blood sugar. I'm kind of a little bit of a
yeah, me too.
And I monitor my sleep and my so I subscribe to the Younger You program. I've been doing it for a long time now, so it's evolved for me a little bit. My exercise in our study, we prescribed at least 30 minutes, 5 days a week of a perceived exertion of 60 to 80%. So not an intensely rigorous, but that's a minimum, not an intensely rigorous time. I tend to go a little bit more towards high intensity interval training, at least a few days a week. I'm a cyclist and I have a background as being a competitive athlete. So that's something that is important and satisfying for me. I pay very close attention to my sleep. I've got a toddler, as you mentioned, and if I'm not doing the best that I can, like intentionally making sure my room is really dark, that I go to bed in time to have a shot at a reasonable number of hours, that I haven't exercised so close to bedtime or, had any late caffeine, et cetera. I need to do that to be able to sleep. I mean, you've got kids running around too. I mean, you have to put intention into getting adequate sleep. And it impacts the epigenome, you guys. I mean, honestly, this is not gratuitous. This is in there. It absolutely impacts it, and it can impact it in a lasting way. And stress management. So that's another huge piece of the puzzle. So for me, it would be exercise, meditation. Playing with my kid is actually a big stress reliever because it really jacks up oxytocin. A extraordinary aha for me on the clock that we used is that 25% of the methylation sites on that Horvath 2013 clock are actually glucocorticoid response elements. So cortisol turns those suckers on, glucocorticoid. 25%. Isn't that mind-blowing? I mean, if that doesn't underscore the stress, that stress is an pro-aging experience, I mean, I don't know what does.
Yeah. For your meditation practice, do you use any of the apps that are available, and which type of meditation
Yeah.
practice would you recommend or that you use?
So in our study, we used the very simple, and again, this will be reproduced in the book and on the app, the very, very simple Herbert Benson relaxation response. It's been used, he was out of Harvard, and it's just been used many, many times in many, many research studies. So it's just a well-validated, simple breathing tool. That we recommend. However, if you come from a practice, just continue with your practice. I mean, we didn't study it, so I can't technically say transcendental meditation or Zen meditation has benefit, but the literature really strongly suggests that any, a variety of these interventions are beneficial on epigenetics. I personally, actually, I don't know if you're an Aura Ring person, but the Aura Ring itself has a tool built in that's kind of nice, and it'll track my heart rate variability. I'm a little bit of a data hound, so it's fun. It'll track my skin temperature and my heart rate, and so that's kind of cool. And I just like the little background noises. They also will walk you through some guided meditation, so that's a useful app. Calm is an awesome app, and these, Calm has freemiums that work. And so you can access those. And then what's totally free that I love is University of Wisconsin has a whole mindfulness meditation research institute there.
Oh,
and
wow.
they've got an app called Healthy Minds, and the whole thing is free. It's extraordinary. So I'm really kind of experimenting with different apps right now. Healthy Minds is cool for me at the moment because they've got active meditation. So I can turn it on while I'm riding my bike. And I need to, if Isabella wakes up really early, I'm not going to be able to do meditation. I mean, that's, it's it. But if I have a minute to hop on my bike, or I have a Peloton at home, I can actually do an active mindfulness exercise that won't plant me into a tree.
Oh, yeah.
So
yeah.
There's some good tools out there.
So yeah, good devices. I'm crossing my fingers for the Apple Watch. Hopefully, glucose monitoring maybe in September. We'll see.
Oh, really? Is that right? You're going to be able to hook up to like the Freestyle Libre, or what is the?
Both. No, actually, it would be. It's not interstitial glucose like the Libre. There's no needle, but it's using new technology that Apple's patent, that Android also has access to, but it uses Raman spectroscopy to shine a light through the skin, and supposedly it will give us a type of continuous glucose monitoring. And can you imagine how that will change people's behavior if they could see their glucose every time they eat something and see that? So
it's a game changer. It's a game. I mean, it's a game changer. It's changed mine. I mean, when I started wearing it, I thought that you just see how you respond to food. I did have a good diet. I mean, I still do, but yeah, it's definitely changed my behavior. And another big aha for me, which may or may not have been for you, is how high my glucose can spike sometimes when I'm doing like high intensity interval training. Yeah. And how many people have been diagnosed as diabetic because they went to their doctor right after?
Exactly. Even a fasting glucose. I mean, I fast like 20 hours a day, and I can see my glucose going. I mean, it stays pretty low, but actually, one experiment I did unintentionally on myself. It was the middle of the day, like 10 in the morning. I'd been fasting since like 6 o'clock the night before, and I had a kidney stone. So exquisite pain, and my glucose just took off on the glucose monitor. I hadn't eaten anything, just drank water, and my glucose shot up through the roof, and it didn't come down until I got the IV morphine in UCLA emergency room. But it shows the effects of pain in this case, or stress, on glucose levels and how it spiked it up. It was pretty wild. That's
extraordinary. God, this age of being able to see is just revolutionary in what it's teaching us. Yeah. Or seeing a little dawn phenomena sometimes, the little morning spike. And when it happens, because I don't always have it. Anyway, we could go down a rabbit hole.
Yeah, no, there's
like a diversion.
So, any other devices, acetone monitors, breath monitors, or blood, or sounds?
I do my blood sugar to track it with my interstitial glucose, and unfortunately they don't always correlate, but you just sort of get the gist of what's happening over time. I just got a lactic acid kit, which Yeah, so I haven't played around with it, but being a fan of Peter Attia, I love his podcasts. He went
He's
through a phase
great.
of talking about him quite a bit, and I was like, all right, I need that. And I'm thinking about, should I be training at a lower heart rate? And anyway,
Yeah,
for
there's
another
a
conversation.
whole thing on that. Any labs or imaging that you use for lifestyle issues that you find useful, like medical imaging or
Sure.
any
Yeah.
labs?
I would say that, I mean, I'm definitely, having done my postdoctorate training in a lab, I'm a big fan of getting, a broad swath of labs as we're able to, and more of them are covered by insurance. So I like, some of the advanced lipid panels that we can get nowadays, our access to F2 isoprostane, which is an awesome pro-oxidant compound. What else? We can get a broad swath of nutrients covered by insurance, from Quest. We can get good fatty acid panels looking at our omega-6s and our omega-3s, our saturates, our monounsaturates. I like the panels like from Genova Labs, like the Ion or the NutraEval. The Ion has really all our essential and conditionally essential nutrients, plus it has toxic compounds, and they're actually all, the cool thing about the Ion, and this is where I worked, they're divided into quintile ranges. So it's kind of like a CRP. You can look at your patient's trends over time, or you can look at where they fall within the population as a whole. So you're more in control of how you're going to work with the data versus a high or a low that you just sort of accept. You can look at how, are they in the bottom 20th? Are they in the, middle 60th? Or are they way, outliers above the top population? And we can look at organic acids and get a snapshot into mitochondrial health and function. There's a lot of good oxidant stress markers. So, and that's only evolving. Of course, we have stool testing. We can look at, that's just growing by leaps and bounds. So we continue to be on the precipice of, as a clinician, we continue to have, more access to better and deeper testing, and it's coming forward. In fact, one of the things that I'm doing, so in our digital platform, you will have access to epigenetic biological age. In fact, we'll be looking at a way more clocks than we did in our study. Just since we started our study in 2017 till now, there's a whole suite of second generation clocks that are arguably even, more effective than the Horvath original flagship clock, although it's a great clock. I'm not going to argue with it, but we're creating a custom test that will look at biological clocks, but it will also look at some of these genes that I'm hoping are nutrient responsive, like tumor suppressor genes. Some of these things that we were talking about, NF-kappa B, what's the methylation status? Is it on? Is it off? Some of our antioxidant genes, and just we'll be looking at actually, glucocorticoid genes. We'll be looking at methylation patterns on oxytocin, the oxytocin receptor gene that can be hypermethylated in trauma. I mean, we're going to be looking at some really cool stuff, and all of that will be accessible in the app as it's available. We want to look at things that are actionable for us through a diet and lifestyle lens.
Sure. Yeah. Do you recommend any consumer facing methylation clocks that someone could order for themselves? I mean, like True Diagnostic, or there's some out there.
Is True Diagnostic actually marketing directly to consumers? I don't think they are.
It may have to go through a provider.
I like True Diagnostic. We didn't use them in our study. We went straight to Illumina, who, Illumina works in the research world, but True Diagnostic is also using Illumina. We're designing our custom array with True Diagnostic. So yeah, I think that they're really working hard. Zymo has a direct-to-consumer biological clock that's based on the original Horvath that I like and I've used. I think that they're a good, solid lab. You can't argue with Illumina, from True Diagnostic, and Zymo, they're right in the thick of epigenetic research as well. They're good. They're not sort of startup fly-by-night labs, either of them. Elysium has a proprietary biological age clock that I think that they're marketing direct to consumer, if I'm not mistaken. They are Morgan Levine, who's just, arguably one of the sort of best known epigeneticists, sort of bioinformatic epigeneticists, I think is part of Elysium. So I think they're doing good work. It is proprietary, so we don't really know which clock they're using. I guess as I move into science, I would like to know, but I think that they're doing good work there. So there's some solid stuff out there that people can access, and we hope to be able to offer something as well.
Oh, that's great. It's such an exciting time, and such a pleasure having you on the show today. I want to again thank Dr. Fitzgerald for your amazing contributions to the field and taking time to speak with us today. Please follow her podcast, her blog, order her upcoming book, pre-order it right now. It's on Amazon and elsewhere.
Yay!
And if you want to experience the possibilities of lifestyle and other functional medicine tools to affect your biological age first time, get involved with the program and sign up as well. And we'll provide all the links to your information for our listeners, so they have that in the show notes. And once again, Kara, thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's an honor. Really, it's a pleasure. I'm just thrilled to get to know you. Great conversation. Really fun talking to you.
Look forward to speaking to you again, and maybe we can reconnect after we get into the study and after the book comes out.
Yes, I would like that.
To do that.
Yeah, and we'll talk about imaging. I think there's a place. There's absolutely a place for it. Yeah.
Note: this is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking of it because of something you have seen here. If you find this to be of value of you, please hit that like button and subscribe to support the work we do on this channel. Also, we take your suggestions and advice very seriously. Please let us know what you'd like to see on this channel. Thanks for watching, and we'll hope to see you next time.